we are. We got the truck spun around and we're already stripping the front end off of it now. She's all up in the air. I'm gonna get all this wiped off of it today and get the new shit on. And here we are about an hour later. Success. We have one Dana 35 TTB uninstalled in one piece. Actually not too bad at all. I think the only thing that really we couldn't get done was get the stupid straps off the U-joint to get the front dry shaft off, so we just pulled it off, installed, and we'll get those off here in a little bit. But shocks came right off, radius arm pivot bolts all came off, sway bar links came off, so there we go. Everything's stripped off. And a little difference between a Bronco 2 and the Explorers we're noticing is a lot of the pivot bracket bolts and cross members all bolting on this truck. Where my Bronco 2, everything was riveted. The coil buckets, those are riveted, so we do gotta blast those rivets out. So far so good, moving right along. Not too bad for a couple hours worth of work. So, right here we got the passenger side factory drop bracket. All bolts in, no rivets in this one. And here we have the Duff drop bracket in. Bolted in, we have one bolt hole we have to drill and add right there. And so there's the original coil bucket, still riveted in place. And on this side, we've already got this one off by grinding off the heads of the rivets. And there we have a clean frame rail. So now we can bolt the new one on. And here we have the new James Duff coil buckets. Nice heavy duty. They come with a nice strap that will bolt around the upper coil to retain it at the top. Very nice feature. So let's get these installed. And there's the Duff bracket on the driver's side bolted in. Got the coil retainer just sitting in there right now. So that's how that goes. 3 bolts there, one on the bottom, and a hole left over for the bump stop also to sandwich it. And now I've removed the stock drop bracket off the very bottom of the cross member. I had to grind the head of the rivets off those, air hammered those to knock that off. And now I'll bolt the Duff drop bracket on in place of that. And that's going to go right there. And here we have all of the Duff drop brackets installed. Both of those are bolted on. And I just removed the original radius arm bracket. Everything unbolted. On this side I did just cut this one off here. That one's bolted behind the fuel pump, and parking brake cable's in the way. I don't feel like dealing with it, so I just cut it off, left it. It'll be fine. So that's all done. Only thing left to do on the other side is the other Duff coil bucket on the passenger side, and we are ready to start installing. But this might conclude today's activities, I think. This is one heck of a dirty job, and I am whooped. So that might be it for today. Okay, I'm officially done. It's 8 o'clock, day 2. I think this is a good place to call it quits for the night. I got the other side complete. The other coil bucket is on. Did have to take this bracket back off. We installed that first with the original coil bucket still on. Well, this actually went on top of, it sandwiched the very bottom of the original coil bucket. So I had to take that off, or at least drop it down to get the original coil bucket off. And once that was off and out of the way, I could bolt up the Duff one. The Duff one is clearanced right here, so it doesn't interfere with this. They kind of fit together, kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. But the angle was kind of weird looking. I don't know if this was designed to actually sit on top of something, so I put a spacer in between there, and the angle of these two looks much more the same now. So this one here looked like it was tilted a lot more when it was bolted up tight to the frame rail. So there's a spacer in there right now, and now it looks, everything looks more in line now. So, and then right here, this hole, that metal is super thick right there. There's another huge, there's some kind of bracket welded in there. So I ended up just drilling it with a 7/8. I couldn't get a 1/2-inch drill bit through it. Apparently mine are all dull. So I got a 7/16 hole in there, and I tapped it, and that's threaded now, and just ran a bolt in it. So we're good. We're good for the night. I am tired, I am dirty, and I am hungry. So that will conclude this part 2 of the video, and hopefully tomorrow we'll pick up with a fresh video of installing everything. So that is a wrap. All right, here we are, beginning of day 3 of the Explorer project, and we have the legendary Dan here today helping. Right on. And we've already got 1/2 of the front beam installed. We're rolling. So we got to get the other half in. We got to get the other half of the axle splined and in sync. Got to keep the U-joints in phase. It's important. And get the other half of the twin beam and the other drop bracket. And then we can figure out the layout for the radius arm brackets and the tranny cross member. So here's Dan showing off. So
piece at a time.
Here we go. Get it in place now. Springs are installed. Got the spring retainers up top. Bottom ones are on. Better shot from over here. These are the 5.5-inch early Bronco. Oh, they're not the early Bronco. My bad. They're just the 5.5-inch Duff progressive rate coils. So now we have to take some measurements. We got to install the frame brackets for the radius arm joints and the transmission cross member. At that point, the only thing left to do is the shocks, the shock mounts, and the steering. So, moving on. Okay, so here we are on the driver's side frame rail. We got the radius arm bracket up, and what we found is the frame rail is not technically boxed, but it is reinforced on the inside, and it is not a flat piece of metal. So drilling the holes all the way through, I don't have a flat surface to get the bolts and washers in on the back side. It's in a really weird position. So the bottom bolt there is in a good spot to get a bolt through. I do have a bolt through in the bottom. That's bolted up. We have the tranny cross member in, bolted to the trans. They're bolted together. So this bracket, I'm going to weld it in. I'm going to burn it in to the frame rail all around there, and it'll have 2 bolts in it. So it'll be bolted and welded. Passenger side, 4 bolt holes lined up with the original holes in the frame, and 1 hole had to be drilled up through the bottom. And that side was really easy to do, so that's done. So I'm going to burn this side in here real quick, and then we can bolt the radius arms up, and this part is done then. So we're almost done here. And we are now bolted up. Radius arms are now all bolted up. Front suspension is now all installed. We're doing the dual shock brackets on the frame rails now. Got to do a little measuring up there. Drill 2 holes in the frame rails for the 1 bracket on each side. That's what we're doing now. And it's just a matter of doing the front drive shaft, getting that back in, and reinstalling all the steering linkages and the sway bar. And we're just about done. Alright, so something worth noting, using this Duff kit, you have the dual shock brackets. On a Bronco 2, this would bolt right up to the front frame rail, drill 2 holes, bolt right up, you get your 2 shocks. We have the other side done. The difference in the Explorer frame rails, like I said, they're not boxed, but they're reinforced. It's 2 layers thick. On the other side, we just welded them. We ground off the powder coating on the bracket. It was just way easier to just weld it right to the frame. And on this side, on the driver's side, you basically don't have an option because of the fuel lines, the brake lines, and all this other stuff that are bolted to the other side here. So we just cleaned off the metal here. This bracket is going to get put in place right here, and we're going to weld it right there. So the Duff kit will easily work on the truck. Everything is not 100% bolt on. You're definitely going to be doing some welding to make this work, for sure, but definitely doable. So as long as you got some welding skills, you make this happen. So we're almost done. So here's the shock bracket welded in. The 2 shock holes, I plug welded those to the frame, and then the 3 sides are all welded up. So that ain't going nowhere. All good, ready to install the shocks now. And alright, here it is, sitting on its wheels for the first time. Still got the steering to do, and the brakes, and the rear shock mounts, but we had to throw the wheels on it. But there it is. Turned out pretty dang good, I think. It's sitting perfectly level as far as we can tell from in here. The wheel, the track width, front and rear, looks like it matches perfectly, even with the spacers in the back and nothing in the front. Looks real good. There's clear shot of all the suspension. There we go from the side. Turned out pretty good. Just a few more small details to knock out tomorrow. And I think we'll be sending her down the road. Big thank you to Dan for all the help today.
Oh yeah, turned out great.
Very happy. Good day. Alright, so here we are. I think we are the final installment. The Explorer is done, other than Eric himself is going to take care of the rear shocks. He's going to build his own cross member for it. Had to do a little bit of fender trimming, clear the tires. Got the pinion angle set today. Brakes bled. Welded the spring perches all up. There it is. There's your spring over conversion in the rear. Obviously the front end needs a serious alignment. There's all your James Duff TTD long arm. It turned out pretty sweet. So I think we're ready to send it down the road. Eric's gonna take it home and finish up all the last few details. Here's all the, you gotta pull that piece of molding off the body and do a little bit of trimming on the fender right there. The 35s are clear. And that was it. Looks like in the rear, that back edge there is going to have to come off, but I think the bumper is going to take care of that. So I think that's a wrap. Send her down the road.